What's going on, everyone? It's me, Lone. I hope you're doing all right. Today, I'd like to talk about Starfield and to try and answer the question, what is going on with the game? I really do try my best to talk as often as I can about Starfield on this channel, especially now that I'm doing YouTube full time. It's only in my favor to do so. More videos is of course going to mean more views for me. However, if you look at my recent slate of uploads, you won't see that many new Starfield videos in there, and that's not because of a lack of trying, it's because there's not much new to talk about when it comes to this game. Whether it is an announcement, an article, or even an interview or two, it's been pretty slim pickings for us as of late. So I think it's absolutely warranted at this stage to have this discussion. What is going on with the game? What is the update when it comes to new content and DLC and shattered space and mod support and the new features that BGS said were still coming to the game this year, like with city maps and new ways of traveling and stuff like that. So that is the question we're going to try and tackle in today's video. I'm genuinely interested to hear your thoughts in the comments below. But if you enjoyed this video and you find it helpful, please like, subscribe if you're new, with notifications if that's possible. But let's start off looking at Starfield's previous update. So Starfield's previous update went into Steam beta on the 6th of March, and then it had its full release on the 19th of March, so almost 2 weeks after the fact. And if you look at that update, by and large, like with every update for Starfield since the launch of the game, by and large, it was about bug fixes. That has been the consistent theme for all of Starfield's updates. They've mostly been about bug fixes. Now, there have been some new features here and there, especially when you look at that last update. They added an improvement to photo mode, where you can set expressions and poses for your character in photo mode and your companions as well. And there have been quality of life improvements, changes and improvements to the PC settings menu and stuff like that. So there absolutely have been new features, but by and large, it's absolutely mostly been about bug fixes. And I haven't criticized Bethesda Game Studios for that, mind you. If you look at my previous videos, and I'll say it again right now, that stuff was absolutely necessary. If you look at the game state at launch, I don't think it was too bad, especially compared to previous launches for BGS, but there were bugs that needed to be fixed. There were absolutely quest blockers that needed to be addressed, and there were areas where the game's performance could be improved. And it was on Bethesda Game Studios to do that. No one else could do that for them. Like, mods are limited right now because we don't have the full mod kit and stuff like that. So BGS needed to be the ones to do that. And it was important for them to do so, because if people were ever going to come back to the game to try and experience the DLC in Shattered Space, you don't want them to be experiencing the exact same bugs they were experiencing at launch, because that's a bad look. Most people are just going to dash after that. So I said that those bug fixes and those updates were absolutely a priority and very important for Bethesda Game Studios. So it's good. It's very good that they've done so. However, we are now at the stage where we are genuinely asking the question, well, where's the new content, right? Where is the DLC that you long announced for Starfield in the form of Shattered Space? You announced that before the launch of the game. We haven't heard any more information, any new information about Shattered Space since. We don't know if there's going to be any other DLC for the game. We still don't quite know when mod support is coming and stuff like that. So all of us are legitimately asking the question right now, when is this new content going to be releasing for Starfield? So let's look at that. BGS earlier this year did say that Starfield's going to be receiving updates every 6 weeks or so. And to their credit, BGS have absolutely been hitting that cadence. So if you look at the previous update, we should be receiving the next update for Starfield, at least in Steam beta, in a couple of weeks or so. And then the full release to console and to the rest of PC will be after that. Now, some people might be saying, well, maybe that's going to be the DLC. Maybe that's going to be new content or Shattered Space and something like that. I don't think so. If that was going to be new DLC and new content, let alone Shattered Space, we'd absolutely know it by now. BGS would be making much more of a fanfare, because that's the big deal, right? A lot of people have stopped playing Starfield because there's not new content to experience. So that's a big announcement, and that's when people are going to be coming back to the game. So absolutely, the marketing machine at BGS and Bethesda is going to be behind that announcement. I don't think out of nowhere they're just going to shadow drop Shattered Space. Even if it's a Steam beta, there's no way that they're doing that. And I could eat my words, I could be wrong about that. But I think if Shattered Space is coming, we're going to know about that weeks out in advance. So my best guess is that the next update is going to be mostly about bug fixes. And maybe not even as big as the previous bug fix update, because that one was pretty big when it comes to bug fixes. Hundreds of them. But I still think it's mostly going to be about bug fixes, and maybe we receive city maps. Maybe we receive save file thumbnails, which is what I've been talking about for a while. Maybe we get 1 or 2 big features that they've said are coming to the game. But I don't think it's going to be Shattered Space. I don't think it's going to be DLC. So why do things feel so slow? When it comes to updates for Starfield, it's been a big talking point recently. Things just feel slow when it comes to new content and new updates and stuff like that. So let's look at that. Now, Starfield, as we know, launched last year in September, so we're about 7 months or so removed after the launch of the game. And it feels like, and I feel like a lot of people feel this way, but it feels like we probably should have received new content by now, right? Because if you look at Fallout 4's DLC cadence, it was much, much faster. And I only noted this and realized this when a viewer pointed it out on a previous video of mine. So I want to break this down for you because it's quite a stark difference when you compare it to BGS's next big game. We're going to exclude 76 for a bit, but when you compare Fallout 4 to their next big single player game in the form of Starfield, it's quite a stark difference. So Fallout 4 was released on the 10th of November 2015, right? Now, Fallout 4 had a number of different updates for the game. The first one was Automatron. That was their first add-on. And that was released on the 22nd of March 2016, so about 4 months or so after the launch of the game. The next update was Wasteland Workshop, and that was released on the 12th of April 2016, so 5 months after launch. Then you had Far Harbor, which was their first really big piece of DLC content and story content for the game. That was released on the 19th of May 2016, so just over 6 months after the launch of the game. Contraptions was then released on the 21st of June 2016, so about 7 months or so after the launch of Fallout 4. Vault-Tec Workshop was released on the 26th of July 2016, and then Nuka World was finally released on the 29th of August 2016. So when you look at Fallout 4 and how quickly or frequently it released, or it had, updates come to the game when it comes to DLC and new story content and stuff like that. By this stage, with Fallout 4, just over 7 months removed from the launch of the game, we already had Automatron, Wasteland Workshop, and Far Harbor, and we were just about to receive Contraptions, right? That's what we had already received over 7 months after the launch of Fallout 4. Whereas with Starfield, we have not received one piece of DLC content in terms of stories and quest lines. It's all been about bug fixes. So that is a big reason why it's felt very slow for Starfield, because their last previous big single player game was Fallout 4, and we received so many more updates for that game much more quickly. So that's the first reason. The second reason as to why things feel a little bit slow for Starfield is that BGS's communication style is quite slow. It's been one of the criticisms, as much as I love BGS and I did like Starfield, and I'll continue to talk about the game, but one of the criticisms that many people, including myself, have had with BGS's communication style is that they don't talk that often, right? They don't really talk to us about their games and development all that often. Outside of random tweets here and there, we don't really hear from them unless it's time for an update or a Steam beta patch or something like that. And I would also say as well, they probably announced Shattered Space too early. Some people would also use Elder Scrolls 6 as an example here. They talked about that game too early. I think the situation for that game was quite different. But with Shattered Space, they announced that before the release of the game, the launch of the game. And since we haven't heard about it since, and we don't hear from them that often when it comes to official updates for Starfield, that's why it feels so slow. And then when you compare that to Fallout 4, only 3 months after the launch of that game, they did this big announcement where they released a DLC roadmap for the game that included Automatron, Wasteland Workshop, and Far Harbor as part of that. So that's also why I mentioned that maybe they announced Shattered Space too early, because we've been waiting on it since the launch of the game pretty much, whereas with Fallout 4, we were happy to wait because we were playing the game, and then 3 months after the launch, they're like, hey, here's the DLC, here's what's going to be coming to the game, this is going to be releasing in the coming months. I think all those reasons combined is probably why Starfield has felt very, very slow when it comes to new updates, when it comes to communication and stuff like that. So I definitely think there are lessons to be learned on BGS's side moving forward when it comes to Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5, and indeed all of their future projects. I think they need to pace this stuff a little bit better. But I think one of the big reasons as well as to why we haven't received any big content updates for Starfield, it's not just because they're taking their time with it. I absolutely believe that's the case. But I also think that Fallout 4 Next Gen is taking a big chunk of their resources. We know that Fallout 4 is getting its Next Gen update sometime this year. It was meant to be last year, but now it's this year. And I've always suspected that they're going to try and tie in the Next Gen update as closely as possible to the release date of the Fallout TV show. We know that Amazon is going to be doing a Fallout TV show. It's coming out on the 12th of April. I suspect a big chunk of the people at BGS are crunching on that to get the Next Gen update released as closely as possible to the TV show And they've probably realized that that task is bigger than they first thought, right? If it wasn't as big as they first thought, we would have received it last year. But because it was delayed and because we had this TV show now with an imminent release date of 12th of April, I think they probably moved more people from Starfield onto Fallout 4 just to get that out the door. And therefore, that's affected the development of DLC and content for Starfield. So that's just my speculation. That's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But as I mentioned, new content is absolutely needed ASAP. And as I said, bug fixes are good. They're important. They absolutely need to be prioritized. But looking at Fallout 4 and just looking at how far removed we are from the launch of Starfield, it's over 7 months now. People are absolutely itching for new content, myself included, and I just don't see myself starting a new playthrough of Starfield unless there is new content to experience. So where to from here? As I mentioned, in 2 weeks, we should be getting that Steam beta update. BGS have been consistent when it comes to hitting that 6 weeks cadence. So that's going to be good. As I said, I think this is going to be mostly a bug fix update, maybe 1 or 2 new features here and there. But I do fundamentally believe that as soon as possible, and they need to announce the release date of Shattered Space, right? It might not necessarily be for another 2, 3, 4 months, whatever it is, but just tell us when it's coming out so we have something to look forward to, yeah? And I know it's a risk every time that you announce something, maybe even a little bit earlier. It could be at risk because you might not hit that date. There could be problems in development and stuff like that. But I still do believe when it comes to Starfield, hype is very quickly dying off for the game. We need something new to sink our teeth into, and that's absolutely an announcement for the DLC. So I think we need a release date for Shattered Space. But even bigger than that, I think BGS need to take a leaf from Fallout 76 and release a DLC roadmap for the game. Because, yeah, one DLC, Shattered Space, is good. But is that all we're getting for Starfield? Like, are we getting multiple DLC and multiple pieces of content like Fallout 4 received and all the other games have received? Because if it's just Shattered Space in the space of 7 months, is it going to be another 7 months until the next DLC? Is there even going to be another DLC? Is it just Shattered Space and that's it? I really do believe that this game would benefit from some sort of roadmap. They don't need to talk about the release date for all the other pieces of content that they might have planned. At the very least, it needs to be Shattered Space, but it would be nice to know, yeah, the game's getting this DLC, it's getting this content pack and stuff like that. They don't always need to be quests and story-based and stuff like that. We saw that with Fallout 4, yeah? But something that we know is coming to the game that's not just Shattered Space, I think is pretty important. But yeah, it needs to happen soon. Starfield definitely needs to get new content soon. There's so many games coming out this year, so much other stuff for people to experience. I worry that the game's kind of hype and attention level from fans is going to slowly dwindle as we keep going on in the weeks and months ahead and we don't hear about Shattered Space or any kind of release date or other DLC whatsoever. So I think it absolutely needs to happen soon. But probably even before that, we need to know when city maps are coming. We need to know when new ways of traveling are coming. We need to know when mod support is coming. Just give us some sort of roadmap. I think that would be really, really good. But finally, I do want to cover this at the end of the video. I know there's been a lot of negative discussions for Starfield recently, and some people have questioned why I'm still covering the game. I know a lot of YouTubers have stopped covering Starfield, and I've seen big tweets about this recently, because every time someone covers Starfield, it just attracts a lot of negativity and hate. The reason why I'm covering Starfield is because, one, I've always been a Bethesda channel, and I try and cover as many Bethesda topics and news pieces as possible, as the games come out especially and stuff like that. So that's why I'm still covering Starfield. But two, I like the game. I like Starfield, I like BGS, and I want to see Starfield succeed. And that's why at times I can be perceived as being too critical for the game. It's only because I love the game, and I love Bethesda Game Studios, and I want to see them thrive. And that's why maybe I'm too harsh. I don't know, but I'm always going to be covering Starfield so long as there's new content to cover. I'm always going to be covering Bethesda on this channel. Even if it attracts hate or negativity or whatever, that's fine. But anyways, Wastelanders, let me know what you think about this topic in the comments below. And until next time, this has been the Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourselves, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.